From the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, this is 30 Minutes with Government with Cedric Peterson.
Hello and welcome to this edition of 30 Minutes with Government. I'm Cedric Peterson. The Financial Intelligence Unit, FIU, will hold its second information session of 2015 for real estate agents, companies on Wednesday, March 11th at University of St. Martin at 7 p.m. Real estate agents are the service providers that act as an intermediary with respect to buying and selling real estate. 30 Minutes with Government spoke with Ms. Laziza Thielen, supervisory official at FIU, who gave insight as to the importance of the information session. Can you explain your role as a supervisory official within the Financial Intelligence Unit?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be sitting here and explaining a little bit about the Financial Intelligence Unit, or the FIU as we call it in short. Well, basically, the FIU St. Martin was established 10th of October 2010. And it consists of two departments, the analyst department and the supervisory department. The analyst department is the department that takes care of the reporting of unusual transactions. This analyzes the reports, reviews them, and see if there's anything tangible with regards to money laundering or terrorism financing, because that is what it's all about. And the supervisory department is effectively functioning since last year, 2014. Two supervisory officials, myself included, were appointed to perform the supervision task. Basically, the National Ordinance Reporting Unusual Transactions appoints the FIU as the supervisory body for 8 sectors. We call them the Designated Non-Financial Businesses and Professions, the DNFBPs. And these are the jewelers, real estate agents, accountants, administration offices, tax advisors, lawyers, notaries, and so it's basically 8 sectors that we supervise. They have different obligations, amongst others, the reporting of the unusual transactions and doing customer due diligence with their clients and their vendors or suppliers, having a compliance regime set up, appointing a compliance officer. And what we as supervisory officials basically do is making sure these supervised entities comply with the legislation.
Why has the Financial Intelligence Unit chosen to have an information session for the real estate agents?
We have chosen the real estate sector specifically for next week because of, first of all, the duty of the FIU is to hold information sessions for the reporters and the supervised entities to inform them and, of course, assisting them into being compliant. And there was a previous section last year for the real estate sector, and the sector requested a follow-up to this information session, and that is why we are holding a second information session for the sector.
Why is it important for the real estate agents to attend this information session?
It is important for the real estate agents to attend because we will be explaining the legislation in a more understandable way. They can ask us questions. We are going to give them a heads up of what is coming for their sector, and most important of all, this is a mean to stay one step ahead of the ones who don't attend the information session, because last December we already communicated to the sectors that the entities that are consistently non-cooperative with the instructions of the FIU, who don't attend the information session, might be sent to the public prosecutor's office for them to be sanctioned. And we are not doing it right now, but if they attend the session, they also show us that they want to cooperate, that they follow our instructions, so they stay one step ahead.
Are there any specific requirements to attend this upcoming session?
Well, there are no specific requirements. The only thing the real estate agents have to do is call us or email us and get themselves registered, so they can be on the attendance list for the session.
Is the information session open to the general public as well?
Well, actually, it is specific for the real estate agents, but we might appreciate if general public who wants to know more or about the real estate business attend.
Will information sessions also be held with other sectors within the community?
Yes, we will be holding information sessions for each sector. And after the real estate information session next week, we will be holding one for the car dealers and for the accountants. And that is end of March is the one for the car dealers, and at the beginning of April for the accountants.
Stay with us. You're watching 30 Minutes with Government.
We're not just another Caribbean airport. We're an international gateway, designed with you, the traveler, in mind. SXM provides a state-of-the-art international travel experience, where ease and convenience is second only to safety and efficiency. At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport. The experience will move you.
The Tax Administration Division Receiver's Office hereby informs the general public that in cooperation with the Police Department, controls on payment for motor vehicle taxes 2015 will commence as of Wednesday, March 11th, 2015. During this time, all vehicles must carry the 2015 plates and must be visible to the police. This means that plates covered with tinted plastic that are not legible are not allowed, and the driver can be fined. In accordance with Article 25 of the Motor Vehicle Tax Ordinance, drivers and owners of vehicles who are non-compliant will be fined 300 guilders. In addition to the fine, drivers will have to endure the inconvenience of having their vehicles confiscated. In the event your vehicle is confiscated, you must go to the receiver's office with valid insurance and inspection card and pay the motor vehicle taxes for the vehicle. After making payment to the receiver, you proceed with your motor vehicle tax receipt to the police department. The police department will then provide you with a release form with which you will go to the towing company specified on the release form in order to retrieve your vehicle. Payment to the towing company will be up to $85 towing charges and $15 per day storage fee. Based on Article 25 of the Motor Vehicle Tax Ordinance, you will also have to pay the fine of 300 guilders issued by the police. This must be done at the receiver's office. The Electoral Council would like to remind all 8 registered political parties that the annual report for the year 2014 should be submitted to the Electoral Council before April 1st of 2015, as stipulated in Article 27 of the National Ordinance Registration and Finances of Political Parties. This means that the final date to submit the annual reports of the political parties is Tuesday, March 31st. The annual report should include the composition of the board during the year 2014, the amount of contributing members at the beginning and the end of 2014, the amount of contribution received during 2014, and an overview of the activities carried out in 2014. The 2014 annual report should be accompanied by a financial report as laid down in Article 28 of the aforementioned National Ordinance, which states that the financial report should at least include the financial position at the start and end of 2014, a specified statement of income and expenditure, as well as an auditor's report by a registered accountant regarding the accuracy of the financial report, donations of 5,000 guilders or more from a source other than the individual donor, and the total amount of donations other than contributions from party members. The Electoral Council reminds all parties concerned that violation of and non-adherence to the National Ordinance Registration and Finances of Political Parties may result in a penalty being imposed. The Electoral Council is currently in the process of finalizing the review of the registers of donations of the candidates and the initial review of the donations registers of the political parties. Minister responsible for Aviation Affairs, the Honorable Claret Connor, and the Department of Civil Aviation, Shipping and Maritime would like to advise the public against the use of remote piloted aircraft systems in St. Martin, better known as drones, particularly in the area near Simpson Bay. This advisory comes in the wake of these aircraft systems being operated off vessels in the Simpson Bay Lagoon and in the Simpson Bay area adjacent to runway 28. These aircraft systems pose a danger to landing and departing aircrafts at the airport and should not be operated in the area or anywhere on St. Martin without the expressed written approval from the Department of Civil Aviation. It should also be stressed that no one shall engage in aerial work in the airspace of St. Martin without approval. Operations that fall under the category of aerial work are photography, mapping, turtle or fish spotting, just to name a few. Any individuals that wish to conduct these activities in St. Martin must submit a request to the Department of Civil Aviation, Shipping and Maritime, where it will be reviewed and a time and day will be provided when the operation can take place if approved. Article 25 of the Aviation National Ordinance prohibits operating objects in the airspace over St. Martin in a manner that may threaten safe operations of aircrafts at the airport. Individuals who are found to be operating such systems are in violation of this notice will be knowingly endangering air travel to St. Martin and will be considered acting in violation of the aforementioned ordinance, for which the individual can be subjected to various penalties and fines. Stay with us. You're watching 30 Minutes with Government.
We're not just another Caribbean airport. We're an international gateway designed with you, the traveler, in mind. SXM provides a state-of-the-art international travel experience where ease and convenience is second only to safety and efficiency. At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport. The experience will move you.
Representatives of the Commercial Development Department of Royal Caribbean Cruises visited with the Council of Ministers on Thursday, March 5th, in order to give a presentation regarding the master plan of the project known as St. Martin Quarter. The informative meeting was intended to brief the Council of Ministers on the project developments since the 2008 signed agreements between the government, the St. Martin Harbor Holding Company, NV, and the Royal Caribbean Cruises concerning the development of a plot of land adjacent to the port. The plans include an urbanized waterfront environment with a hotel, food and beverage establishments, retail outlets, and attractions, including a saltwater lagoon. The Council of Ministers are awaiting the outcome of the advice from the different departments before the master plan can be handled within the meeting of the Council of Ministers for decision making. The approval of the master plan itself concerns the approval of the conceptual plans. Detailed plans are to follow depending on the Council of Ministers' decision. The representatives of the Commercial Development Department of Royal Caribbean Cruises also provided the same presentation to the Parliament of St. Martin on the same day. St. Martin is now the Regional Authorizing Officer for the 11th EDF Regional Program. The announcement was made at the annual Overseas Countries and Territories Association, OCTA's Ministerial Conference and the 13th Annual OCTA EU Forum, which was held from February 25th to the 27th in Tortola. Prime Minister Marcel Gums signed a ratification document formalizing this status. This is the result of a nomination proposed by Montserrat in 2014 and ratified by the remaining 11 Caribbean OCTs in a vote by consensus. In this function, St. Martin will be responsible for the coordination, cooperation, programming, and implementation and closing of the projects selected within the area of sustainable energy and marine biodiversity that will benefit all Caribbean OCTs as well as the wider Caribbean region. A delegation from St. Martin attended a series of events at the conference, namely the Regional Conference for Caribbean Overseas Countries and Territories, Trilateral Consultations, OCTA Ministerial Conference, and the OCT EU Forum. These meetings are a yearly requirement for the overseas countries and territories. The St. Martin delegation comprised of 5 persons, namely Prime Minister Marcel Gums, who is also the Territorial Authorizing Officer of St. Martin. He was accompanied by Deputy Territorial Authorizing Officer and Department Head of the Interior and Kingdom Relations, Mr. Mark Arnold, Department Head of Foreign Relations, Ms. Kalila Peters, Policy Advisor, Donor Coordination and EU Relations, Ms. Olivia Lake, and St. Martin Representative in the Netherlands for EU Relations and OCTA Treasurer, Ms. Carol Voges. In our final story, 30 Minutes with Government highlights an interview with Secretary General of UNESCO, St. Martin, Ms. Marcelia Henry, who explained to DCOM what UNESCO is, how the organization is represented here in St. Martin, who funds the operation, and the accomplishments of the organization since its establishment. What is UNESCO, and how is the organization represented here in St. Martin?
UNESCO is an organization under the umbrella of United Nations. And it is that particular branch of United Nations that focuses on education, science, culture, and communication. So, United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization. And UNESCO is one of those aspects that I would say is quite diverse. It's diverse in the sense that it focuses on education matters, cultural matters, scientific matters, so it's quite broad and diverse. what I do like about it is that it allows the community of St. Martin to benefit from those areas, all of those areas that I mentioned. Education meaning UNESCO considers youth to be its focus area. So there are a number of conferences, there are a lot of programs that focuses on education. But then it also considers teachers to be essential. So there's a lot of capacity development conferences as well. Vocational education, VT, is also another primary area. So what happens with UNESCO? It has developed curricula for vocational education. It has developed policies, etc., for teachers in connection with the ILO. So there are many areas, if I just focus on education, that I did for a moment. But then there is also culture. And with culture, UNESCO finds that this is an area that needs to be preserved and safeguarded. And because of that, there are lots of areas that, such as the memory of the world, there's the documentary heritage. There's also others I'll talk about later on, where UNESCO finds that we need to safeguard these priceless gems, as UNESCO considers it to be, so that they can be transferred to the next generation. Then there is science. With science now, UNESCO focuses on the preservation of our coastal areas, of our natural reserves. It also focuses the promotion of women in science and those other areas. So that's another vast area of UNESCO. And then the final one, which I know you would love, is the communication and information. So with the communication and information, UNESCO promotes freedom of speech, freedom of the media, freedom of expression, and then it finds a way as well to get information out to the masses. So it has a program known as Open Access Information. So that was just a quick shot, a little snap, but then we can go further in detail later on.
When was UNESCO St. Martin officially established?
Well, St. Martin, I can probably go back to the history and then more come forward. St. Martin was part of the Netherlands Antilles National Commission for UNESCO. And we were part of this organization for more than 25 years before we obtained our new political status. And after 10-10-10, St. Martin had to decide whether it wanted to continue with UNESCO and see what UNESCO, how St. Martin can benefit from those different areas of UNESCO. So in October 2011, St. Martin actually said, yes, we want to be part of this organization, and St. Martin became an associate member of UNESCO. Being an associate member means that St. Martin is not an independent country. And because it's not an independent country, one of the only thing I would say that we're not able to do is vote. We are not able to vote in terms of getting our own representations on all of the various committees and organizations that UNESCO has, because UNESCO has a number of subgroups within for all of those areas that I mentioned: education, science, culture. There are many other organizations within it where we could have tried to have our own representation on these various committees. But because we're not an independent country, we're not able to have our own representative. What happens? The Netherlands, because they are independent, they have their ability to vote. And presently, the Netherlands are part of the executive board. And the executive board is that body of UNESCO that makes all the rules and regulations. So even though we are an associate member, we can still channel our grievances, channels our wants and interests via the Netherlands, but we will not be able to have that voting rights. But all of the other rights and privilege there too, St. Martin has.
Who funds the operations of UNESCO St. Martin?
On St. Martin, it is the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. That is where I am presently. The UNESCO office is presently located on the Ministry of Education. And what that means is that the ministry ensures that my person And the secretariat or the UNESCO office has the individuals there to make sure that the office is kept and make sure that we're able to execute the different programs and projects of UNESCO. But that is not the only thing, meaning that the ministry, our Minister of Education, she is what is considered to be the chairperson of the National Commission for UNESCO. So she would be the one, when we have our meetings, who will be responsible for chairing. So the government provides financial support, and the minister in particular is the one chairing. So if there are specific things that St. Martin wants, it can be channeled. The minister channels it via my person, and I, of course, am the liaison with our UNESCO office and that of the Paris office. But there is also a cluster office within Jamaica, where St. Martin falls into the Latin American and the Caribbean region. So within our region, the Jamaica is the office that is that medium, that intermediary body between us and the Paris office. Okay, so that's just to give you a little synopsis. Part of the Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education has obligations in ensuring the UNESCO office has the personnel and the means to execute its work.
What are the main objectives and tasks of UNESCO St. Martin?
UNESCO, well, one of my responsibilities and that of the office is to ensure that UNESCO goals, priorities are visible and known within St. Martin. That's one. Number two, one of the goals of UNESCO is to ensure that, let's say, for instance, those UN observances or those international days, these are known by organizations within the community. One of the other goals of UNESCO within St. Martin is to find out what are some areas that St. Martin itself needs from UNESCO, because UNESCO provides capacity development, meaning that there are several trainings that go out throughout the year as it relates to UNESCO. So, for instance, the minister, the SG of the Ministry of Education might see something that St. Martin might need. They can channel it through me, and I, in turn, would make the connection with the Jamaica office and that of Paris to ensure that there is technical assistance if there is needed, for instance, for policy writing or anything of that sort. Like I said, there's tons of curriculum, there's tons of information that UNESCO has, but our ministry, minister, have the right to say, this is what St. Martin would like to have. UNESCO, we would like to have your assistance on this. So those are one of my goals, to be the liaison between our ministry and UNESCO.
Truly an insightful and dynamic interview with Secretary General Ms. Marcelia Henry. The full interview can be seen in a subsequent broadcast of Inside Government. We've now come to the end of this edition of 30 Minutes with Government. Be sure to log on to www.stmartingov.org for more information on what's happening in government. On behalf of the government of St. Martin and all of us here at the Department of Communication, I'm Cedric Peterson. Thanks for watching.